Celebrate throughout the world the exaltation of the Holy Cross, or the triumph of the cross of Jesus. And it's through the cross that we have been brought into, that Jesus has purchased for us salvation. By this holy cross, he has redeemed the world, as we just heard in the gospel. And so, as we celebrate today's feast day, not only are we invited to reflect on the cross and how the cross brought about our salvation through Christ, but what is it about the cross that invites us into a deeper relationship with Jesus himself? As we turn our attention to the first reading, we hear from the book of Numbers where we're told that God's people were in the desert. They were having some tremendous difficulty, and they were among seraph serpents. And they go to Moses, and Moses goes to God, and God says, have them make a replica of a seraph serpent, a bronze serpent, put it on a pole. And as they are going through these trials and tribulations where the seraph serpents are attacking them, have them focus on the replica of the seraph serpent. Have them focus on that replica, and they will be saved. They will be spared. They will be okay. That replica of a seraph, the bronze serpent, as a reminder of God is with them. God is in their presence. So focus on that. Focus on the replica. Now, in the letter to the Philippians this morning, we turn our attention to Jesus. As St. Paul reminds us that though he was in the form of God, Jesus did not deem equality with God something to be grasped. Rather, he humbled himself and took the form of a slave and came in the likeness of men. And so God became one of us. And his name is Jesus. God took on human flesh. God is not a replica of something. But Jesus is not a replica of something. But Jesus is the God-man, fully human and fully divine. And so, unlike the seraph serpent, those that focus on Christ are saved. Those that focus on Jesus are brought into the relationship that brought about our salvation from the cross. Jesus is the sinless Lamb. He was like us in all things but sin. Jesus is no replica, but Jesus is God himself. And as God himself comes into our midst, he reestablishes the relationship that was broken from the fall. He reestablishes that right relationship between us and God, humanity and God, opening up the gates of heaven for us so that we may have eternal happiness with him in glory. And so Jesus is the fulfillment of what the book of Numbers spoke about today. Those that focus on God. Amidst all of the temptations, all of the struggles, all of the seraph serpents, nay, all of the crosses that we carry in the world. When we lose our focus and think that we can carry the cross ourselves, that's when it becomes a problem. That's when the cross becomes too heavy. But Jesus says, take up your cross and follow me. Don't chart your own, chart your own path, but follow me as you keep your eyes fixed on, as we keep our eyes fixed on Christ, carrying our crosses. All of a sudden, the burden is lighter. The burden becomes manageable with God's help. It's interesting. I find it very interesting that the church in her wisdom today gives us from the Gospel of John, and it's John chapter 3. And in John chapter 3, this is the interaction between Jesus and Nicodemus. And there's several things that come into John chapter 3 in this interaction between this conversation between Jesus and Nicodemus. First and foremost, that we didn't hear of, we kind of jumped, or the church had us a little ahead of some context here. But I'd like to just sort of share this with you. So John chapter 3, it begins, Jesus and Nicodemus. Nicodemus comes to Jesus at night. Okay? At night is important. And they have this conversation. This conversation is about, what does this mean to be saved, basically? And Jesus says, unless you're born of water and the Spirit. Water and the Spirit. Nicodemus says, how can someone be born again? And Jesus says, unless you're born of water and the Spirit. Jesus is inviting Nicodemus into a reflection of water and the Spirit, meaning baptism. Okay? The sacrament of baptism. Unless you're baptized, brought into a relationship. And so here today, as Jesus talks about that the Son of Man must be lifted up, we're reminded in this larger context that through the sacrament of baptism, we have been brought into a relationship with Christ. We have been brought into the death and resurrection of Jesus. And by baptism, we have put on the new Christ. We live in the world, yes, but we do not let the world master us. We keep our eyes firmly fixed on Jesus. Firmly fixed on the cross that brought about our salvation. And as we keep our eyes firmly fixed on Him, we live our baptismal call. We live our call. The call to be men and women in the world of good character. The call to be good parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles. We live that call to be holy. And so today, as we celebrate the triumph of the cross, we're reminded that daily, as we respond to that invitation of Jesus through our baptism to pick up our crosses daily and to follow Him, is that He gives us the strength to continue to persevere. He gives us the nourishment in the most holy Eucharist to continue to walk the walk of faithfulness, to continue to be His children in the world. And so as we look to the cross this day, and we celebrate the cross that is a contradiction, something that was seen way back when as an instrument of torture, is now an image of hope. Hope in the life that is to come. Hope in our relationship with Christ that continues to grow strong. And hope that one day we will all rejoice in the glorious kingdom of heaven with Christ our Lord and all the angels and saints and our loved ones, where He lives and reigns forever and ever.